Good evening. We'd like to welcome you to the Pitt County Planning Board meeting of February the 20th. At this time, we'd like to welcome those that are watching by TV as well, and everyone in the audience. We're glad to have you tonight. We also tonight have in the audience a new member of the Planning Board, Mark Nottingham. We're glad to have you with us, Mark. Okay. At this time, we'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll have the roll call.
Faye Barefoot.
Present.
Frank Bradham.
Here.
Jacob Cox.
Here.
Lyman Hardy.
Here.
Thomas Harris.
Here.
Stephen Laffridge.
Here.
Clay Malloy.
Here.
Matt Nobles.
Here.
Kenneth Ross.
Here.
William Wooten.
Here.
And Madam Chair, we received notice that Wanda Harrington will not be in attendance tonight.
All right. Thank you very much for the report. At this time, let us stand and we'll have the prayer and the pledge at this time. Pray.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for this day and the blessing of life. We thank you for everything that you do for us and you give us. We especially ask you now to give us the insight to deal with the matters that come before this board tonight. May they benefit the county and its members. Guide and direct us. We ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Let's pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You have your minutes in front of you that were in your packet, and at this time there's one correction we need to make on page 4. It should be Baldwin Design Consultants. Make that correction. Do we have a motion to accept it?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, thank you. At this time, we have a public, we're going to open it up for public hearing, and we're going to have Mr. Gooby make a presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Chairwoman. We do have several proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance tonight. We're requesting a public hearing following our staff presentation. We are, in recent months, we've had discussions with at least 2 separate companies that have inquired about the prospects of putting solar farms in the county's jurisdiction. The zoning ordinance itself does not currently have any provisions for solar farms, particularly on a utility scale. Smaller ones of a more residential type, say somebody put one on one's house. We generally have been treating those as either an addition to the house or an accessory to the house. But on a utility scale, we don't have anything in place. And so that's the purpose of the request for tonight. The application is from Ramshorn Solar Center, LLC, to amend the zoning ordinance to include solar farms as a permitted use. As part of our process of researching these types of facilities, we did, not only did we contact several other municipalities and counties to see what kind of regulations they have, but we also were able to take a trip out to a solar farm in Warrenton. This is one that's, I don't think it's interconnected to the utility just yet, but it's one that's just finished up construction. So just to give you an idea of what these types of facilities look like, and Andrew Focal from Helio, who's the applicant, he'll be up here in just a little bit as well, and he's got some more information and some more pictures of the typical solar farms that they do to give you an idea of what they'll look like. But this would be the farm from a distance as far as what it looks like on the panel side. These would be the more panels more up close. These particular ones, they were, I think, less than 18 inches off the ground and about 6 to 7 feet towards the back. So as they slope up, they go from 18 inches at the bottom up to about 6, 7 feet at the top. This is the view of them from behind. You can see the racking system where they're mounted and how they connect together. And these are the inverters that are placed on the property. One of the proposals we've got is a setback, and I'll get into some more detail with that as well about setting back the inverters from neighboring homes, because there is a hum that's associated with the inverters, but once you get beyond a certain distance, it's really not even noticeable. It's I'll discuss that here in just a minute. Under the proposed uses, we're proposing first of all to amend our table of permitted uses, table 5-1. The first you see there is the solar collector accessory, and what this does is it as I mentioned, when people add solar panels and things like that to their home, we've traditionally permitted them as an addition or an accessory to the house. This makes it a little more explicit, permits it in all zoning districts, and just provides some actual language in the ordinance for these types of uses. The second, under transportation, warehousing, and utilities section, is the solar energy facility, and this would be the actual solar farm. And what you see is under RA, RR, and GC, which are general commercial, proposing to permit those as conditional uses. They'll be subject to the development standards that we're proposing. And then in the heavy commercial, light industrial, and general industrial, they'd just be subject to development standards, so they wouldn't necessarily have to come before the county commissioners for a conditional use permit, whereas in those other districts, they would. And again, just staff commentary on this, it would permit them as conditional use, primarily for the purposes of generating energy and also interconnection to the local utility power grid for off-site consumption. Getting into the development standards, I'm proposing to add section, a little cumbersome with the numbering of the Code of Ordinances, but it'd be Section 8, DD, Solar Energy Facility. Where it'd be required is in all the districts that it's permitted in. In the height, it would be requiring that the systems, equipment, and structures, excluding any transmission lines or utility poles, should not exceed 25 feet in height when they're ground-mounted, and that roof-mounted systems that shall not exceed the maximum height for the applicable zoning district. We're proposing a use separation. Again, all equipment and structures to be a minimum of 50 feet from the property line and 100 feet from any residence. And as I mentioned, in the inverters themselves, the actual equipment that would make some type of noise should be a minimum of 150 feet from any residence. When they submit for a conditional use permit or submit for a site plan review or approval, require that a narrative describing the proposed energy facility, including an overview of the project, a site plan that shows the proposed location and dimensions of all solar panels, inverters, existing and proposed structures, screening, fencing, property lines, access roads and turnout locations, any ancillary equipment, transmission lines, and the location of any residences within 100 feet of the facility so that we could verify that they're meeting the setbacks that are required. We require standard drawings of the solar collection system components, copies of any lease agreement and solar access easements. E is evidence that the electrical utility provider has been informed of the customer's intent to install an interconnected customer-owned generator. Off-grid systems shall be exempt from this requirement. And this is important because this shows that the utility company is aware that this project is that these projects are being proposed, and that they know that the intent is to connect them into the utility grid system and to essentially sell the power back to the utility. F would be other relevant studies and reports, certifications, and approvals as may be reasonably requested by the county to ensure compliance with the article. That may be things like they may have a blue line ditch running through their property, and they may need to have it exempted from the TARPAM buffer requirements or the riparian buffer requirements. So any additional reports that we see that might be necessary. G would be decommissioning plans that describe the anticipated life of the facility, the estimated decommissioning costs in current dollars, and the anticipated manner in which the facility will be decommissioned and the site restored. And what the reasoning for the decommissioning, the estimate of the cost is so that in the event that it's abandoned, we are proposing also a provision that if it's abandoned, the county can go in and remove the equipment and essentially recoup the cost from the owner of the property. So it's basically a cost estimate that we would need to receive for that. That's a duplicate line there, but the signature of the property owner and the owner operator of the facility if it's different from the property owner. And then structural requirements, Section 5 for these facilities. They shall meet all the requirements of the North Carolina State Building Code. All electrical solar components must comply with the current edition of the National Electric Code, be UL listed or equivalent, and designed with an anti-reflective coating. Any electrical wiring should be located underground, except where the wiring is brought together for interconnection to the system components or the local utility power grid. We're also proposing to have security fencing, minimum of 6 feet in height along the entire perimeter of the facility. Screening should be screened from adjoining properties by a buffer yard, which complies with the requirements of Section 10H. And essentially, that's a 10-foot buffer with a combination of trees and shrubs. And one of the complaints that they would have would be they don't want a tree that's too tall that would cause a shade or a shadow on the facility. So we do have some provisions in the ordinance where they can use a smaller tree, maybe, and have more of those types of trees as opposed to having one large tree. Signage on the facility, no signage shall be permitted on the fence with the exception of one sign not to exceed 32 square feet, displaying the name, address, and any emergency contact information of the facility, as well as any appropriate warning signs, such as, high voltage equipment, no trespassing, that sort of thing. Okay, a little technical difficulty here. Okay. In Section 9, abandonment, be the responsibility of the owner to notify Pitt County and to remove all obsolete or unused systems. Any structure or equipment associated with a solar farm that is not operated for a continuous period of 365 days should be considered abandoned, and the county may require the owner to remove such structure within 90 days after notice from the county. If that structure or equipment is not removed within 90 days, the county may remove it and recover its cost from the owner. And so again, that goes back to the decommissioning cost estimate that we receive in the submittal. If the owner of the abandoned structure or equipment cannot be located or is no longer in business, the requirements of the section shall be the responsibility of the landowner or on whose property the structure or equipment is located. So again, this is what we proposed. It is consistent with several of the other jurisdictions and counties that we've discussed or have received information from as far as existing solar farm regulations, and we feel it would be sufficient for the county. The third item is to amend Section 15 to add our working definitions for these types of facilities. The solar collector accessory, again, it's primarily going to be a device or structure for which the primary purpose is to convert solar radiant energy into another source for direct power consumption and interconnection with the power grid to offset energy consumption of a principal use. So again, this would be solar panels on a house or for a business on a separate accessory structure. And the device may be roof-mounted or ground-mounted as an accessory use. For solar energy facility, the definition we're proposing is a facility used to convert solar energy into electrical power for interconnection with a utility provider or utility power grid for off-site energy consumption, and may also be referred to as a solar farm, solar energy generation facility, a solar power plant, or solar photovoltaic farm. And again, that just establishes our working definitions. The schedule for this project tonight, again, we are presenting draft amendments to the planning board and asking for a public hearing and subsequent recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. We're proposing to have a public hearing in front of the Board of County Commissioners on March 25th with a proposed effective date of immediately. Staff does recommend approval of the proposed amendments and again asks that the planning board forward a recommendation of approval to the Pitt County Board of Commissioners. And with that, Madam Chairman, we'd like to open a public hearing. We do have Andrew Focal here from Helio Sage. He has a short presentation he'd like to provide to the board, and he's requested that he has at least 5 minutes to speak. So with that, I'd like to bring Andrew up and get his presentation loaded up.
That'll be fine.
Thank you to the board. My name is Andrew Focal. I'm with Helio Sage Energy, Director of Operations. We're based out of Charlottesville, Virginia, and I'm going to go through a couple slides here and kind of give a little bit more detail. But I also want to thank the staff. They've done a great job and done a lot of work on their side to help us prepare for this evening. So thanks very much. If I'm switching slides, I'm going to grab it.
You can use the arrows here if you want. Perfect.
So quick introduction to Helio Sage, and again, Helio Sage is the owner and operator of Ramshorn Solar Center, which is just a special purpose entity we're using for the project in the county. We're based out of Charlottesville. I mentioned that already. Been around since 2007. Founded by a group of utility scale wind folks who had a company called Greenlight Energy that built about 600 megawatts of wind energy. Thanks. And basically, short story is our management team has experience with about 400 megawatts of operational renewable energy projects, both wind and solar. We've got projects up on the East Coast as far as Vermont all the way down to Florida. And we have several projects in North Carolina that were in similar stage of development as this one. So quickly, solar farms, I think a lot of people are seeing them pop up around North Carolina, and I can get into a little more detail about why they're going up in North Carolina if there's questions about that. But basically, typically what these solar farms are referring to utility scale projects that are talking about large amounts of acreage, typically 20 to 40 acres, sometimes larger, that are connecting directly to the utility and the distribution lines and then selling that electricity to the utility directly. So not producing electricity that's going to be used on site but sold exclusively to the utility. Here's a couple pictures in the slides here, and I'll go into a little bit more detail there as well. Here's a close-up of a project that we built in New Jersey. Some of our design team in the photo, but what it's meant to do, which actually Eric already kind of pointed out, is show the general dimensions of what these projects look like. A couple things to note. The modules themselves are typically dark blue or black with an anti-reflective coating. They're designed to absorb all light. And basically, typically at the low point of the array, they are about 2 to 3 feet off the ground, and then at the high point, 12 to 15 feet depending on the final design. The structure that holds these modules, panels, is aluminum or galvanized steel. Typically ground-mounted. Penetration basically requires a simple bobcat rig and basically pile driving these things 8 to 10 feet in the ground depending on soil conditions. The other thing I want to mention here is there's a significant amount of inter-row spacing between the rows of these projects. So the DENR has actually ruled that these are not impervious surfaces. So in terms of our stormwater and erosion control permits, we really have a limited amount of impervious surface on the site. Again, here's another photo of a ground-mounted project, just to get a better sense of that. Here's a photo of a solar farm from a distance. Again, the one thing you can see here to a fair degree is we really don't have to change the topography of the land. These projects are very modular, and so they really adapt to really the existing topography. So again, there's pretty minimal site work. Here's a little more detail on the racking system. I went through that already, but again, it's a pretty simple system. It goes in easily, it comes out pretty easily. In this photo on the left, you can see that there's actually a concrete footer, and that's for a condition where either you hit rock early in the geotech work, or the soil conditions are so soft and silty or sandy that you have to have a little more of a foundation. But again, those are typically about 10 to 12 inches in diameter, so relatively minimal impact. Another photo of what the inverter and transformer equipment pad looks like. Helio Sage designs in about 1 megawatt blocks, and so for each megawatt of the project, which is for each 1 megawatt's maybe 6 or 7 acres of the project, you're going to have one of these equipment pads that's about 15 feet by 35 feet in dimensions, and maybe at maximum of 15 feet tall. It houses two 500 kilowatt inverters, and a 1,000 kVA transformer. How am I doing on time? Oh.
Your time is up.
Okay.
But you could take another minute or two.
I think I'm almost done here.
Yeah, okay.
This is a photo of, a visual rendering of a solar farm we're building in Connecticut, which is actually the largest project in New England, and we're selling electricity, Connecticut Light and Power. And then I've got additional content that I'll hold off on. If people have questions, I can go into.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to open it up for the public hearing now. Is there, I don't have anyone that has signed up to speak. Is there anybody in the audience that wanted to speak about this item? Okay. If not, we'll close the public hearing then, and now we will, on the board, as the board has some discussion, questions for Mr. Gooby?
Madam Chair, I make a recommendation that we accept staff recommendation and accept this rezoning request.
I second.
Second.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Fence height of 6 feet, is that sufficient? Does that include barbed wire?
I believe they're typical, and Andrew can probably speak. I think for the most part, they do include barbed wire just to keep people out. So.
And my second question is on abandonment. It says the county can recoup money from the property owner. It brings me back to our street situation in Subdivision. Is this adequate?
From the information we've been given, there are some studies and some reports that the cost of essentially the salvage of the materials or the recycling of the material is more than the cost of removing it. So typically it's not going to be a burden on them to do that. So we're not requiring any sort of bond or surety at this point for the removal.
Okay, that's all I have.
Is that all you have? Anybody else have a question? All right. Well, let's vote on the motion that we have on. Okay, all in favor of the motion that was made, raise your right hand. Okay, motion passed. Next item on the agenda is a rezoning request, and Mr. Gooby, you have that one.
Yes, ma'am. It's a rezoning request by Pamlico Engineering Services. It's to rezone just a little under 2.5 acres located on NC 33 West. It's parcel number 16401 from rural residential to general commercial. You see the site here. It is located on the corner of Barris Construction Road and NC 33 West, directly across from the EJE landfill, if you're familiar with this area of the county, up towards Belvoir. This is a picture of the site itself, looking from 33 back towards the rear of the property. You see Barris Construction Road over here to the left. This is looking back towards, again, Barris Construction Road, and you can see there are some homes that are along Barris Construction Road. It's primarily manufactured homes that are in this area. This is looking back towards the west on NC 33 if you're heading towards Belvoir. And you see the entrance to the EJ landfill to the right-hand side of the highway. This is the intersection with Barris Construction Road and 33. And this is looking back towards the south on Barris Construction Road as if you're heading towards Old River Road. And then the view back from Barris Construction Road looking back towards 33, and you can see the landfill in the distance there. Again, this is a picture of the landfill. It's directly adjacent from it. This is a store that's located on Barris Construction Road. It's in close proximity to this site. Also, there's Barnhill Contracting Company, which is located off Barris Construction Road, as well as the DPD Team Concrete plant. Future land use plan, as you see, it calls for suburban residential in this area. There's some agriculture open natural resource, which again is primarily the flood zone area located to the south, and then the EJE area is designated as industrial. Existing land uses in the areas, you see, again, EJE is primarily industrial. The Barris Construction, or the Barnhill Contracting Company on Barris Construction Road here is industrial, as well as the concrete plant. And again, there's some couple of commercial uses within proximity to the site. There's a body shop or a car restoration business here on 33, the small convenience store in front of the mobile home park, and then off of Old River Road, there's a mini storage that had come through for rezoning a couple years ago before this board. Suburban residential designation. It's intended to include residential land uses that include single-family and manufactured home subdivisions and manufactured home parks at densities of 1 to 4 dwelling units per acre. Limited multifamily, commercial, office, light industrial, and public institutional uses that meet locational criteria. And that's typically location along a major thoroughfare, location at an intersection, as well as proximity to existing similar uses. And under the land use plan, land is designated as suburban residential is distinguished by the greater potential for development and the inclusion of a broader range of land uses. The zoning in the area is predominantly rural residential, but as you see, the Barnhill Contracting, the concrete plant, and the EJE, or not EJE, E.R. Lewis are all zoned general industrial. There's some general, the car restoration place on 33 is general commercial, as well as the mini storage down off Old River Road. And general commercial is intended to accommodate a range of retail, service, office, limited wholesale, and moderate density multifamily residential uses in those areas that have access to major thoroughfares and necessary utilities to support such development. Given the subject property's location at an intersection, again, it is on a major thoroughfare with NC 33, its proximity to existing commercial and industrial uses, we feel the request is in general conformance to the land use plan. In addition, it meets guidelines for the general commercial district in the zoning ordinance. And with that, staff does recommend approval of the request to rezone 2.44 acres on NC 33 West, that's intersection with Barris Construction Road, from rural residential to general commercial. Staff also advises it is reasonable and within the public interest, and it's consistent with the county's comprehensive land use plan and any other applicable plans. We'd like now to entertain public comments. Planning board will then make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. We're scheduled to hold a public hearing regarding this request on March 25th. I think in your packet I put March 18th. But it is actually the 25th, so that was my fault putting that in there. But at that time, the commissioners will then take action on the request. And with that, we'd like to go to public comments.
I do have two people that have signed up for public comments. You can come at this time, state your name, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Marie, Miss Marie P.
Good evening, everybody. Marie Peden. I'm an engineer with Pamlico Engineering Services, and we made the request to have the property rezoned. Obviously, I'm working for a developer who's looking to develop this property with a commercial retail use. With it being on the corner, it obviously meets the best use for them in wanting to put a retail commercial business at this location. 2.44 acres is what is needed to meet the WPO, I think, or the WPA requirements to make sure we stay within our stormwater ordinances and meet all the requirements that are set forth, what's driving the size of the property. Anyway, otherwise, I feel like, along with the county, that because it is kind of a way to buffer between where you do have some residential and you have the industrial across the street, that it's a way of using zoning for what it is purposes for. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them, but I agree with what Eric has said and all of the information that's been provided.
Any questions from the board for concerning this request? Ms. Peden?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Naomi Buck.
Might be a waste of time. I'm Naomi Buck. I've served on the Pitt County Planning Board and the Adjustment Board. Never dreamed I'd be up here pleading with you to not commercialize this property. But I haven't wrote a speech or anything. I prayed about it. And whatever the city council or the county council or you decide, I'll go along with it. But when I first moved out there, I was sitting there that's a busy corner. We have that construction down there across from our park. We also have the trucks coming in and out from the dumps place over there. I was sitting there using my phone one morning, pulled over to the stop sign, sitting there beside the stop sign, coming out to 33. The next thing I knew, I was sitting up on Billy Peden's truck. He was coming down from Belvoir. A little Mexican turned in on him, hit him. He was going to Greenville. He hydroplaned on me and had my Saturn picked up right on his top of his hood. Luckily, I didn't get but one little scratch right up on my forehead. Never even bled. But the lady that bought the lot right across from that piece of land, she almost got killed. We've had another one over on the housing development of modular homes across from it that have had bad wrecks out there, and people were hurt up. And it's such a busy place right there, and if you go put commercial property there coming in and out, especially I've heard that it was a Dollar General store, it's going to knock us out. We just well sell out our little store because we'll never make it. But that's okay. I've been here 83 years, and the Lord has provided for me, and He'll provide for me then. But I am begging you, I got 131 names from people out there that live in that area that they just don't want to see it commercialized right now. And it is a trying time right now for people. And they just have signed this. I got 31 names, and they were mostly right around that are buying land there and their homes there. And they are modular homes. A lot of them are modular homes. Now, I did get names of other homes that were down Belvoir, but I didn't go to Belvoir. I went out about halfway down where he was talking about Little Spotty Shop and got names down there, and all of those people that had homes along there were not for that being commercialized. So I'm just asking you to do what you feel led to do.
I have a question for you. Did you say 31 names or 131?
Do I what?
Did you say you had 131 names or 31 names?
131 names.
131.
131 names that were against it.
Okay. Anybody have a question for Ms. Buck?
And when I got them to sign it, I told them exactly what I was told, what it was going to be doing. And then, too, I worry about our store has been robbed. And people are going to be there trying to rob that Dollar General, plus they're going to be hanging around that Dollar General. And it's just going to be really bad for the people that are living in that area.
All right, thank you.
But I know you have a job, so do what you have to do. Thank you.
We'll close the public comment session at this time. Okay. We have a motion from the board.
Motion
Any
to approve.
discussion before you, we have a motion? And no discussion? No discussion? Okay,
Motion to approve.
all right.
Ms.
Second.
Barefoot, I'd like to just see if anybody else wanted to speak with the
Yeah,
public comments
excuse me.
before we proceed on.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wants to speak, even though they were not signed up? If you would like to speak, you are welcome to. So it's definitely closed at this time, okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
All right, a second? All right. All in favor, raise your hand. Right in. All right, motion carried.
We need a motion, or those that are opposed to vote.
Those who oppose, we have two. Okay, the next item on the agenda is turn it over to Matt. The planning matter for subdivision street maintenance guarantees.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Like you just said, I'm here for the subdivision ordinance amendment, street maintenance guarantees, and tonight we're just going to introduce the language to you and let you act on it at a public, or have a public hearing and act on it next month. Just again, some background. You guys have seen a lot of this stuff previously at previous meetings. The Pitt County subdivision ordinance, new streets are to be built and maintained by the developer at the expense of the developer until they are adopted by NCDOT. And NCDOT must be petitioned to adopt proposed public streets, and the streets must be in a serviceable condition before they'll take them over. Maintenance enforcement of streets that haven't been adopted by DOT has been problematic in the past, where developers have built them 15-plus years ago and had never petitioned DOT to take them over, and now they're falling apart on us, and we're trying to make sure that problem doesn't happen in the future. Recent amendments to the subdivision ordinance specified maintenance standards and violations. At the planning board's direction, planning staff have presented options for maintenance enforcement measures. We presented them last month at the January meeting, and we settled on some form of maintenance guarantee at y'all's direction. And and staff were directed to prepare draft language for road maintenance guarantees. The proposed language will require developers to make guarantees so that Pitt County will be able to remedy road maintenance violations that aren't corrected. The proposed language gives clear understanding to developers that we will use the guarantees that they make if they don't fix the problems. The proposed language will require the subdivider to post some form of financial guarantee. It's going to be a bond and what's called an irrevocable letter of credit, cash and escrow. Really, there's a range of options they have that they can use to post the financial guarantee. And the guarantee must be approved by the county engineer for cost to make sure that what they're proposing to put up as a guarantee is in line with what the percentage would be to fix those violations. When NCDOT has officially adopted the streets, the guarantee is released back to the developer or their successor in interest. Planning staff proposed to add the following new section to the Pitt County subdivision ordinance, and I'm sorry, it's going to be long-winded. I'm going to read it. It's a new section, section 148, road maintenance guarantees. Prior to the approval and recording of the final plat, the subdivider shall submit a financial guarantee approved by the subdivision administrator, county engineer, and county attorney. This guarantee is to allow the county, in the event of continued road maintenance violations and problems, the ability to make repairs to roads in that subdivision which has not been adopted by NCDOT nor maintained by an approved homeowners association. Upon adoption of streets by NCDOT or an HOA, the guarantee shall be released by the county back to the original subdivider or successor in interest. Section A, financial guarantee, amount and duration. At the time of the final plat submittal, the subdivider shall provide a financial guarantee or surety satisfactory to the subdivision administrator, county attorney, and county engineer in an amount not less than 25% of the estimated total cost of the road improvements. The financial guarantee shall stipulate that the roads and associated improvements will be maintained until such time as they are adopted by NCDOT or maintained by an approved HOA. The guarantee shall be valid for an indefinite period of time or until the roads and associated improvements are maintained by NCDOT or an HOA, and shall ensure that the needed road maintenance can be performed without cost to the county in the event of uncorrected road maintenance violations by the subdivider. All right. Number 2, acceptable forms. Acceptable forms of financial guarantee include irrevocable letters of credit, performance bonds, cash escrows, first deeds of trust, or any other form of guarantee as approved by the county attorney and allowed per NCGS 153A-331. The amount of the guarantees shall be reviewed by the county engineer, and the specific agreement shall be approved by the county attorney prior to the final plat approval and recording. 3, certification and release. Prior to release of the financial guarantee by the county, the subdivision administrator shall secure a letter from the NCDOT district engineer stating that the subdivision roads have been formally adopted by NCDOT and NCDOT assumes maintenance responsibility for the roads under guarantee. For privately dedicated roads, the subdivision administrator shall secure a letter from an approved HOA stating its authority to maintain the subdivision roads. Section B, maintenance. All the following on-site and off-site improvements as applicable shall be guaranteed for maintenance until adoption by NCDOT or an approved HOA. Streets and street right-of-way improvements shall include road surface materials, road base course, and associated drainage improvements, e.g. roadside ditches, curb and gutter, storm drains, and drainage cross piping. Maintenance violations. Upon determination of a road maintenance violation in accordance with Section 141D5 of this ordinance, the subdivision administrator shall notify the subdivider in writing of the violation. The subdivider shall have 30 days to respond in writing, and the subdivider shall outline the plan to correct the violations. From the date of the response by the subdivider, he shall have 120 days to correct the violations. If a response is not provided within the time provided or work not completed as needed to correct the violations, the county may proceed with necessary actions, including the use of all or a portion of the provided financial guarantee to ensure that the maintenance violations are corrected. That's the text of the proposed language we'd like to add to the subdivision ordinance. I'll take any questions, any suggestions you have, and we'll work on it for next month.
What do you do if the amount you set aside for the guarantee is insufficient? I mean, in time, that could happen.
That's kind of why we're using 25%. We're hoping a quarter of the cost of the road construction will be enough to fix, what problems pop up. And that'd be a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
Would, in follow up to that, we've got some streets that need a repair now. If hypothetically we had done this years ago, would 25% be enough to take care of those, as an example?
Probably would have.
I would hope so, and also we would hope that, and an added benefit to this being in the ordinance is that it's holding somebody's money so that they're going to want it back, so that they're encouraged to go ahead and get those roads adopted by DOT.
Have you checked with any other county to see if that 25% was sufficient for them, or, if they've had the same problems, and how much they had to set aside?
A lot of other counties have gone with 15. We're on the high side,
Okay.
but we don't want this problem to happen again, so we're a little high right now.
Right.
Do you think we get someone from DOT to come to the next meeting and talk about it also? Request?
I feel like we probably could have. We've had them at the past. We had them back in the fall here talking about this specific problem, but they've always been supportive to come and answer questions when they've been asked to.
Okay.
So what is the wishes of the planning board to go forward with this?
I think probably just motion to hold a public hearing at next month's meeting. Yes, ma'am.
I'd make a motion, we hold a public hearing next month's meeting.
Okay. All in favor? Raise your hand. Okay, motion passed.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Our next item, informational items, would be James.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Did want to share with you, most of you have probably seen already, it was an article in the paper today, the rezoning request that was held last month before you was actually withdrawn. So the one that was under consideration on NC 903 South near Rinston did not make its way to a public hearing with the commissioners before being withdrawn. So just want to make you aware of that. Some of the other informational items, our departmental work programs included in your package tonight, just to highlight a few things. Not surprisingly, the item that you just dealt with, subdivision street maintenance, will continue on into 2013, and we'll continue to bring you information there and work on some of the other issues that are associated with that. Floodplain maps, there are going to be several panels that have been updated by our state agency, and we'll be incorporating that into our flood damage prevention ordinance, so that will require some amendments. Regional hazard mitigation plan will kick off later in the year, and we're still doing some upgrades to our permitting software. So a lot of things not mentioned on the screen here, but lots of things on the work program, as well as ongoing activities with some of our work with the municipalities for administering ordinances and so forth. Also, TAB has put before you our departmental annual report for last year. Would like to acknowledge TAB, our office manager, as well as Tracy Cash on their work in putting this together. It's a nice clean version. It's not as lengthy as usual, and it's hard copy in front of you, and certainly you can access that on our website. So it turned out really well, and I hope you'll take a few minutes just to look through that. And of course, you can go on our website, see that. A lot of other information is included in your package tonight as well, and you can visit us on the website and see the annual report and a lot of the other items that you contend with on a monthly basis on the website. So we encourage you and the viewing public to visit that when possible. And that's all we have for tonight, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Do we have any comments from the board before we have a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to thank Waylon Hunnisack and his family for withdrawing their request for that rezoning. I think it's the right thing for them to do, and I appreciate them doing that.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Okay, we adjourn, but before we adjourn, we are going to meet next month, and we have a couple of items coming up. So everybody try to be here next month, okay? And thank you for coming tonight, and so we are adjourned at this time.